Hi, I'm Michelle Dortzenak, founder of Unnata Aerial Yoga. This is the third in a series of mini classes that we're doing, maybe around 10 to 15 minutes long, where I get to show you in real time how we would practice the Unnata Aerial Yoga. So today I think what I'm going to do is work on a hip hanging from the hips. It's a forward bend, and it's very similar to what you would experience in a downward facing dog. So it's usually not so overwhelming for our heads, meaning an overwhelming way to hang upside down. Okay, great. So let's see, how do I want to start? I think to help prepare me for getting into the hip hang, I'm going to go ahead and stand upright. And I'm just going to get ready to go right into it by taking my arms through. And you can see the hammock already kind of hangs fairly low, but not quite low enough. I want it to be right on the spot where, you know, when you sit down and you create a little crease in your pants, that's where I want to place the hammock. And I'm basically going to fold around the hammock. So I'm going to stand up on my tiptoes to get that way down there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk forward a little bit so that all I have to do is lean a little bit with my hips. And now I can feel the pressure of the hammock going into that folding area in my legs. I'm going to start to fold, letting myself crease. And at the point where I can feel the hammock's not going to slip up off my bones, I can release my hands down. Now, before I actually walk my feet back, I'm just going to linger here because I actually really think this is a great position to be in. It feels good. It's not 100% of my body weight resting on the hammock just yet. I still have weight in my legs as well. So it's a nice interim position to be at for a while. Just let my body sort of get used to what is going to come. Alrighty. Now to transfer basically all of my weight to the hammock and not have some of it in the hammock and some of it in my legs, I'm going to keep reaching as far forward as I can with my hands like so, but just tiptoe my legs back. And at some point, as you can see, the hammock sort of takes over with the loud squeak on the floor. The hammock just takes over and slides me back and basically has caught my body, and now I'm hanging 100% off of the hammock from this fold, from this crease. What I'm going to do with my hips and my legs is really just be as receptive as possible to the fabric and let myself just relax as much as I can. This is not necessarily going to be a stretch for the back of your leg, right, or for the hamstrings, which is usually what you get on the floor. Instead, it's allowing me to really just feel elongation in the back, any sort of relief of pressure on these intervertebral discs, because at this point, through hanging, gravity is actually helping to pull my spine apart rather than compress it together. So I'm just going to be here for a while. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do these series of videos is to be able to show you how we practice a class in real time. Usually we see things on TV or on YouTube or in the movies where they really severely edit and manipulate time so that it can be entertaining. And here, I just wanted to give you a sense of how long you'll be holding things. It's not for entertainment purposes. So there we go. Okay. Now, whether you're practicing yoga using a hammock and therefore dangling in the air, or whether you're practicing yoga on the floor, in both situations you want to try and hold your positions as long as you can comfortably so that you can really feel the full effects of what the asana position has to offer. So while I was hanging, I was starting to feel parts of my muscles of my back release. And the thing about holding yoga positions, a lot of times you don't recognize that you're holding on to something or that you have tension because you're not always sore. So as things are letting go, I could feel my spine maybe slightly twisting or turning, maybe the hips slightly tilting forward or back, or whatever it is that is basically undoing my bad postural habits. And a lot of that stuff I wouldn't have been able to pick out before I started hanging on the hammock. I wouldn't have been able to notice it. So it's a great tool. This also happens with your yoga asanas on the floor too, if you can hold them long enough. So here we go. I'm now coming out of the position. I've moved my feet underneath my hips a little bit more so that I'm taking the weight back into the legs. And at some point, I'll be able to just let the hammock pull my hips back over the heels so you could see my heels could drop down to the floor. And then I just come to stand. It's not that hard to do. Now, to give me a little bit of something different, I'm going to stand on my legs. There we go. Partly the hammock was compressing the skin and the circulatory system right here. So I'm basically, by standing upright, just allowing that to restore. And if there was any loss of sensation, you know, the kind you have when you sit down for a long time, your legs fall asleep. If I have any sort of sensations like that, then I'm just allowing time for it to come back to normal. And within this standing position, though, I'm also recognizing the differences in my spine. Maybe I was slightly twisted, maybe I was slightly lifting one shoulder, maybe the hips were over here, who knows? Now I'm just trying to allow myself to be okay with the new placement, not go back into my habits if I can help it. If I brought my feet together, then all of a sudden this is another yoga asana called Tadasana, mountain pose. And this is one that gets overlooked quite a bit because it's not flashy. I think that's why it gets overlooked. It seems like maybe it's too easy. But if we're really truly looking for complete symmetricality, it's actually quite challenging. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do now is play around a little bit with this connection of the leg and rotation, folding, that sort of stuff. I'm going to do it by lying down. And I'm going to take one leg into the hammock, cross the two sides, and let myself slide the two sides around the toes so that I can come to lie down on my back. And I'm going to get my hair out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to take this into a twist by turning my toes here to the side, and I'm really using the side of the foot here to push or pull against the hammock, depends on how you sense that. Lifting my hips up so that I really have the shoulders both on the floor. And I'm crossing the free leg over. Now I can straighten the leg out or I can have the knee bent. Today I'm going to have the knee bent. Yeah, I'm using a little bit of effort here to lift the hips up and a little bit of thought to making sure that my shoulders stay, both of them, stay on the floor. But other than that, I'm trying to let my belly relax and just allow myself to feel the rotation in the spine. The other thing I'm feeling is on this side of the leg that's in the hammock. I'm feeling a little stretch there because I'm not lifted all the way up. I'm sagging just a tad, my hips down. And then I'm going to work my way all the way over onto my belly. I just let the shoulders lift, roll on over, going to scoot myself back onto my mat and rest there. So we started out folding here. I came into the twist where I was sort of stretching on this side. Now I'm lengthening in here. Getting a well-rounded practice for my legs. Okay, so to get out of this, super easy. All I have to do is point my foot and the fabric comes right on off. I'm going to assess for a moment here, feeling the difference between my two legs. My right leg definitely feels a lot longer than the left, so I want to make sure I attend to the left. Here I go. I'm going to come back up to stand and place myself into it. Left leg, crossing two sides, taking those two sides around the toes, laying back, coming into the twist first. So I turn the side of the foot into the hammock, and I use that to help lift my hips up. Just like I did on the first side, I'm going to go ahead and keep the top knee bent, keeping both shoulders on the floor, and just taking some time here. Okay, and then I'm going to work my way onto my belly. So when we're doing things that are two-sided, like this one is, you have one leg and then you go to the other leg, sometimes it can be difficult to know how long to hold the position. I think a lot of people like to make sure they're holding it for the same number of breaths or the same amount of time, so they have a watch nearby and they take a look at that. Me personally, I like to go by feel, because I know my two sides can be very different, as the case may be. And it may be that I have to hold one side a little longer than the other, or maybe I can't sustain one side holding as long as I did on the first side. And even though we are working towards balance, you have to do that within reason, I think. So that's my personal take on it. Okay, so I'm going to release again, pointing through the toes and letting the leg go. Just sort of shaking things out. And this time, to take my assessment, I'm going to go back to that Tadasana, to the mountain pose, coming up to stand. And let's check that out. Essentially, because we were working on folding, stretching outside edges, and then lengthening this here, not just folding it, I basically created a little bit of space, So it feels almost like I lengthened my legs, like actually took them and pulled them away from the hip bones a little bit more. I don't know if it looks like that, but that's what it feels like. Part of that lengthening or pulling apart not only makes me feel taller, but it also helps me feel that I'm actually connecting to the floor, the surface of the floor, a little bit better as well. This is what we call grounding. So, and I think that's good enough for today. A little bit about the legs. Thanks.